Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to a brand new mod spotlight on a mod that I can't tell you how many people have asked me to do a spotlight on, and I've just started playing with it in my Forgecraft 2 series, and it's a really cool and very fun mod. It's time to take a look at Blood Magic. Blood Magic is a mod by Way of Time. It's a magic based mod and it adds so much content that there's no way I'm going to even handle this in just a couple videos. I think my plan is to do 4 videos on this mod. That's if I can get it all done within 4 videos. It's just super massive how much stuff there is to take a look at. I'm going to break it down as easily as I can and do it as methodically as I can as usual. So we'll have a couple episodes dedicated to a couple basic mechanics of the mod, and then we'll be able to break out and see all the different cool stuff you can do with it. There's a lot of really cool items, a lot of cool blocks, a lot of multi-block structures, spells, rituals, sigils, power, magic, all kinds of craziness. It's a neat mod, and it's definitely worth checking out. So if you guys haven't played with or looked at Blood Magic yet, it's very much worth seeing, and we're about to take a look right now at all the intricacies of this mod. So we better get started. There's a lot to cover. Alright, to get started in your Blood Magic career, you're going to need a couple basic things. First off, you're going to need an altar. The blood altar, as shown here, is created simply with a furnace and some stone and some gold and diamond. It's pretty easy to make, as you can see. I'm going to place it right over here. Sounds like a good spot. There we go. Now this machine does not have an interface, so there's no way to actually interact with it in a GUI. What you actually have to do is place items in it, and you need to fill it up with life essence. There's a couple different ways to get life essence. One of the most basic and initial ways that you're going to get it is from yourself. So this is where the part of the mod becomes a little bit dangerous. You can actually use your own life essence to fuel this machine. It's pretty easy. All you need is a Sacrificial Orb. You can also get a Sacrificial Knife if you want. There's both of these items are available in the mod. I like to use the Sacrificial Orb. It basically will draw a life essence out of your player and store it in a nearby blood altar. Now you do need to be standing near the blood altar when you use this. You can't use it from a far distance away. For example, if we use it from a far distance away, it just won't do anything. And I'll show you here. Simply right-click the orb, and you'll notice that it steals one of your health points. So we just lost a health, 1 heart. And it filled the blood altar with a little bit of life essence. Now, what you get from this is about 200 life essence, and there's a way to find out later how much you got. Now, one of the things you might have noticed is that the first little bit of life essence that you pour into this blood altar is going to be, it's going to look like it disappears, but actually goes into a separate buffer tank that I'll explain more about later. All you need to know right now is that whenever you right-click this orb, it does damage your character a little bit, drains your life essence, and stores it in the altar. Now, like I said, let's wait for this little bit to disappear. It'll actually be about 1,000 life essence initially that will look like it disappears. It's actually being stored in a different area that I'll talk about later, like I said. And after that, it'll no longer disappear. And like I mentioned, it's 200 life essence per right click here. Now, as I also mentioned, if you right click from far away, you'll still take damage, but you'll notice that you didn't fill your blood altar at all. So make sure you're standing nearby. So 1, 2, 3 more iterations here. We'll fill it up a little bit to the point where it will no longer drain. And then we'll move on to what we can do with this cool stuff. One of the first items you're going to want to create with the blood altar here is called the Weak Blood Orb. This is the first foray into your magical abilities and one of the first items you can create with a blood altar. So basically what the blood altar does is it uses the life essence it currently has stored inside of it to alter and modify items. If you want, you can look up these recipes because there is some pretty good NEI integration in this mod. As you can see, the Weak Blood Orb, which is the first tier of Blood Orb, requires a Tier 1 altar. Altars can be upgraded, we'll get into that later. In order to do this, all you have to do is place a diamond into a blood altar that currently has 2,000 life points stored inside of it. Okay, so remember I told you it's 200 life points per right click, and each right click uses a heart. So we're going to need to get up to 2,000 life points here. So we're going to need to click this thing quite a few times and get your health pretty low. So next step, just grab yourself a diamond and right click it into the altar. And you'll notice that these red particle effects roll up, indicating that this is operating. Now, one thing to note is you'll also see some little gray puffs of smoke if you've run out of life points inside your altar. All you need to do is refill it with some more life essence, and you'll be good to go. If you do see those gray particle effects, by the way, some of the progress made towards making the transmuted item is lost, so you're going to need to probably give it a little bit more life essence than would have been initially needed. So make sure that your altar is full enough for each of your transmutes that you're going to be doing here before you let it proceed. Now, in just a moment, we'll see that this diamond here will transform into your Weak Blood Orb. And there we go, a big puff of red particle effects, and you've got your weak blood orb, which you can now pick up. Cool. This is your first item that's going to give you access to your soul network, and it's also going to be used for crafting. There's quite a few crafting recipes which require the weak blood orb, and you can get some pretty cool and powerful items, which we'll check out probably in some future episodes. For now, we're just going to see a couple basic things. For example, I mentioned earlier that there's a way to check how much life essence is currently stored in the blood altar, and for that you're going to want to get one of your very first sigils. Now we're probably going to cover sigils more in detail a little bit later on, but I wanted to show you the first one now, and that is the Divination Sigil. This guy is crafted using the weak blood orb, so you definitely need to have it, as well as some glass. And one other item you're going to need is a blank slate. We can take a look at the recipe. We'll see that we need 1,000 life points, and a tier 1 blood altar, and a piece of stone. Oh, well that's pretty easy. Do note, by the way, you're going to need quite a few of these down the line, so you're probably going to want to have a lot of them. So let's make sure that our blood altar is filled with quite a few life essence points, and right-click on the altar with the stone. You'll note that it's doing its little particle effect thing, and it's draining the life points into the stone and infusing it into a blank slate. There it goes. Cool. So now we've got the blank slate and the weak blood orb, so we have the ability to craft the Divination Sigil. Now the Divination Sigil is going to go ahead and tell you, when you right-click on the blood altar, how much current LP is stored in there. You can see at the moment there's 800. And it's also a tier 1 altar with a capacity of 10,000 life points. So the most you can have in this thing at this point in time is 10,000 life points. Currently it's got 800, and whenever we right-click the orb, we're going to fill it with 200 life points, as you can see. And whenever we place an item in there that's going to go ahead and get transmuted, we'll see that it's slowly but surely draining it out until it's drained all 1,000 life points into the item. And you'll see that that's when the item transforms. There we go. 200 LP left. The item is transformed. We got what we wanted. And like I said, simply right-click to get the item out. So this here tier 1 blood altar is all well and good. Yep, looking pretty nice. But we'd like to upgrade it, because not everything can be made in a tier 1 blood altar. In fact, very few things can be made in a tier 1 blood altar. In order to do that, we're going to need 8 items called blood runes. These guys are made pretty easily. You just need some blank slates, some stone, and that weak blood orb that you made earlier. Okay? Surround the altar's base with 8 weak blood orbs. Cool. And now, if we right-click this guy with the Divination Sigil, we'll find out that it's a Tier 2 Blood Altar. Now, Tier 2 Blood Altars can make a lot of cool stuff. Let's take a look at one of the first ones called the Apprentice Blood Orb. You'll note here that it indicates that it does require a Tier 2 Blood Altar. And the Apprentice Blood Orb can make all kinds of other cool stuff. So there's actually 5 tiers of altar and 5 different orbs. If we take a look in here, we'll find out that we've got, many tiers of orb here. If you're not counting the Orb of Creative Mode testing. So we've got Weak, Apprentice, Magicians, Master, and Archmage's Blood Orb. And each of these upgrades require a more powerful and larger multi-block structure of Blood Altar. Pretty neat, right? So now that we've got a Tier 2, we can make some other cool stuff, like this guy right here, the Dagger of Sacrifice. He's pretty useful. Like I said, it does require a Tier 2. It requires 3,000 life points. And what you'll do is place an iron sword in there, and it'll get transmuted into a Dagger of Sacrifice. Now, this thing is not terribly powerful on its own. If you go ahead and attack farm animals with it, you'll discover that it only does 1 little point of damage. So it's very weak as a tool. You might as well, run around and hit stuff with your fists if you want. However, when used right near a blood altar, it does something very useful and cool. Right now we've got 1,800 life points. If we place a sheep nearby and attack it with the Dagger of Sacrifice, the animal will be immediately killed, and its life essence will be converted directly and sent directly into the blood altar. So we can see here now we're up to 2,050 life points. Okay, so what this does is give you 250 life points per non-hostile creature sacrificed nearby. See, now we have 2,300 life points. For hostile creatures like spiders and zombies and skeletons, you'll get an awesome 500 life points. Cool. So it's a nice way to fill up your altar without having to harm yourself. Because one of the downsides of the Sacrificial Orb that I haven't mentioned yet is it is possible to kill yourself with it. So be really careful when doing stuff. Yeah, you get a nice 200 life points stored into your altar whenever you use it, but it can kill you. But upgrading your altar to different tiers is not the only upgrade you can apply. You can also upgrade your altar with some other stuff. These different runes that are available to you, the Rune of Augmented Capacity, Dislocation, Efficiency, Sacrifice, Self-Sacrifice, and Speed runes, are all runes that you can use to upgrade the altar and make it do different things. For example, one of the things you can place on there is the Rune of Augmented Capacity. Note right now that we've got a current capacity of 10,000 LP, the same as a tier 1. Upgrading altars does not upgrade the amount of life points that an altar can store. However, replacing one of the blood runes with an Rune of Augmented Capacity will. And you'll note now that this guy has a current capacity of 11,500. So it just took a moment for the multi-block to update and realize that it has a new Rune of Augmented Capacity nearby. And this thing is pretty nice. The more runes of augmented capacity you have down, the more you're able to store. Now we have 13,000 LP available to store. Pretty cool. Some of the other rune upgrades are as follows. The Rune of Sacrifice, for example, will give you more life essence whenever you sacrifice any creatures nearby. Note here that we are now at from 2850 to 3400, so we got a significant boost in the amount of life points we get whenever we sacrifice a creature nearby. The Rune of Self-Sacrifice does the same. These guys, by the way, increase by 10%, and that's an additive boost. What you get. Self-Sacrifice will increase the yield you get from using the Sacrificial Orb nearby. Pretty cool. Speed runes increase the speed at which things craft in the altar. So you'll notice that it took a while to infuse different items with the life essence needed. When you use speed runes, that operation will be faster. Pretty cool. The Rune of Efficiency will cause it to lose less progress if the altar runs out. So I mentioned earlier that you can lose progress on something if the altar runs out. That's something you're going to want to keep an eye on. Right now, with a Tier 2 Blood Altar, the only runes you're allowed to have are the 4 different sides of it. So these 4 runes are the only ones you can upgrade. If you try to apply upgrades to these corners, it won't work, at least until you get to a Tier 3 rune. Once you get to a Tier 3 Blood Altar, all runes can be replaced with their upgrade versions, and you can upgrade it as much as you want. So keep that in mind. You should also note that many of these upgrade runes do require the Tier 2 Blood Orb. So you'll see here that, for example, the Efficiency rune, or the Self-Sacrifice rune, for example, requires Reinforced Slate and Apprentice Blood Orb. What's a Reinforced Slate? Well, that's actually a Tier 2 Slate. You'll note that it requires a Tier 2 Blood Altar, and you take the blank slate that we made in a Tier 1, just leave it in there, and for 2,000 more life points, you'll be able to get that up to a Reinforced Slate. So lots of different crafting mechanics required for this mod, but it's really pretty fun. Alright, Dyer, enough playing around with blood altars. We see how we can fill this thing up. What cool stuff can we do with it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's move into taking a look at sigils. Sigils are some very nifty, powerful items that use some of this life essence to do some really cool stuff. However, it's not going to use the life essence directly out of the altar. Each player has their own specialized network of life essence points called the Soul Network. In order to see how much life points you have in your Soul Network at the moment, you simply right-click a Divination Sigil in your hand, and you'll note that your current essence is 0 LP. This is a completely separate thing from the altar, which currently has 3,400 LP in it. So right-clicking with your hand, you'll see that the player's current life essence is 0 LP. Their life essence max is determined by their current blood orb level. So if they have a weak blood orb, it can store a certain amount, and an apprentice blood orb can store even more. The weak blood orb can store 5,000 life points in your soul network, and the apprentice can store up to 25,000, and it goes higher from there. How do we fill up our soul network? It's pretty easy. Simply right-click your weak blood orb. Just like with the sacrificial orb, it's going to drain some life points from the player and store it in your soul network. You can see now we have 200 life points there, and we can fill up our soul network as we wish. Cool. Another option is to place your weak blood orb in an altar that currently has enough life points in it. So let's get ourselves filled up here a little bit. I'm just going to heal myself up. And we'll see here that we're now at 3,000 life points. If we place our weak blood orb in the altar, we'll start filling it up. And we're draining life points out of the altar to fill up the player's soul network. Cool. As mentioned, when using the weak blood orb, you can only get your current life points up to 5,000 in your soul network, even if there's more life essence available in the altar still. If you want to have more than that, you're going to need to use your apprentice blood orb, either by right-clicking it. So you'll note here also weak blood orb, right? If we right-click it, we didn't get any more life points. Apprentice Blood Orb, we right-click it, and we do. And the same with placing it in the Blood Altar. You'll note that now we have more life points going into our network, up to 25,000. Cool. Alright, we get it. We got a whole bunch of life points stored in our soul network. What can we do with it? What's some cool stuff we can do? Well, one of the first items you're probably going to take a look at are called sigils. If we look at our list of sigils here, there's quite a few. A lot of them have some really cool effects. Let's take a look at a few of them right now. One of the first and most basic sigils that you can make is the water sigil. It's basically an infinite water generator. All you have to do is right-click in the world and it'll place some water. Now, note here that currently this sigil just says water sigil, infinite water anyone. However, if I right-click it and we look at it, we'll note that it's now current owner bound to Direwolf 20. Each sigil is bound to a player, and that player's sigil is always bound to that player's soul network. So I can now give this sigil to another player, and whenever they use it, they're going to be draining essence from my soul network. So just because the player is using the sigil doesn't mean it's their soul network that's getting pulled from. It's whatever player initially used the sigil. It's now tied to that player's soul network forever. So that's an important thing to pay attention to. So let's go ahead and right-click. Let's see what happens. Currently have 6,085 LP. For a measly 100 life points, we were able to create a block of water. And we can do it as often as we want. Oh, well, that's pretty cool, but not terribly exciting. How about this guy right here, the lava sigil? Dun dun dun! For 1,000 LP, we're able to create a block of lava. Cool. Not bad at all. Now, there's a bunch of different sigils that are also available, of course. Those are some pretty basic ones. One thing that you might want to check out, by the way, which is pretty cool early on, is a lava crystal. This guy is very nice. It basically acts as a fuel source for anything that accepts basic fuel, and it uses your life points to do stuff. So you can place it, for example, in a furnace as a fuel source, and then that furnace is able to smelt items using the lava crystal. Now, you'll note it's not working right now because I didn't right-click it. It's not bound to a player until I right-click it. Now that it's bound to me, it can go into the fuel slot, and you'll see it's operating as fuel. And every time it does an operation of fuel, it's draining just a little bit of life points from me. So it looks like about 25 were drained there. Now, as it burns through that fuel, it's going to go ahead and drain more and more LP. Cool, right? So it's a pretty good way to power different machines and different furnaces and stuff like that. However, do note that some things can start to go wrong if you start running out of life points in your soul network. Let's see what can happen. So let's see, here we go. We'll just kind of fill this thing up. And where are we at right now? We are sitting at 2,800. So right now we have 860 LP. How much is required to make a lava block? 1,000. So what happens when I use this? Whoa, I just took damage. That's right. If you try to do some of this magic and you don't have the available life points, it will drain life points from the player. 1,000 LP is 5 hearts worth of magic, right? So it drained that out. So do be careful, because anytime you try and do stuff that you don't have enough power for, it will start draining directly from that player's life points, and that can definitely hurt. It should also be noted that some things that are automated, like the lava crystal, won't kill the player because that would be pretty nasty. But if you are out of life points when you're trying to use the lava crystal, it will start to give you some negative debuffs like nausea, and that's no fun. Make sure to take that life crystal out of there, or the lava crystal, and it'll no longer have the nausea effect. Or if you want, you can go ahead and just get yourself some more life points, and that will also remove the nausea effect for you. Cool. One of my favorite sigils is called the Air Sigil. It basically, whenever you right-click, will burst you forward just a little bit. Cool. Now, it doesn't protect you from fall damage, but if you right-click quickly, it's a great way to travel around. Note that you can pretty much fly through the air with it, and you can speed around pretty quickly. Do note that it does use a little bit of life points every time it activates. So we can see here, it used about 50 LP. And of course, just like with everything else, if you're out of LP when you try to use it, it will cause damage to the player. But it's a really nice early game way of traveling around. All it really needs is a gas tier and a feather and a tier 2 orb and slate. So a pretty good way to travel. Another nifty one is the Sigil of the Fast Miner here. Another tier 2 sigil. When activated, you'll see that it's turned on. Instead of doing something on click, this is a toggleable sigil. It turns on and off whenever you click it. This one gives you haste too, so that you can mine more quickly. Cool. And when deactivated, it's turned off. A great way to go mining, having haste 2 on all the time, is definitely useful. You'll note two things. First off, 9,900 LP. When we turn it on, it's going to basically drain 100 LP there. Right? So let's take a look again. Turn it on, and 100 LP was drained. And it's also going to drain a smaller amount of life points every time, I think it's every 10 seconds or so. So if we take a look here, after about 10 seconds, it'll drain another 100 LP. So it does need to be refreshed every 10 seconds or so, costing another 100 LP. And just like with everything else, it will start to damage the player if it's left on. So make sure to turn it off when you're not using it. Another nice early game sigil is the Sigil of the Green Grove. What it basically does is two things. First off, you can right click on any plant and it will apply bone meal to that plant. So it's a great way to quickly grow a single plant. It does, of course, like I mentioned earlier, on all sigils, it does cost a bit of life points to do that. Another thing you can do is you can actually toggle it on and off. And when activated, it will rapidly grow any plants nearby. I think the radius is something like 9 by 9. So it'll quickly, rapidly grow any nearby plants just by having it activated. Of course, this does require a bit more life points. So we can come over here and check, and we'll see that we're at 8700 LP, and every few seconds it's going to drain a few more life points from your soul network to keep this thing running. Looks like 150 was drained. Cool. Yep, that's about it. And you can see here as well, let's turn it off. 8100, use it once. Again, about 150. So each operation or every few seconds, it's a great way to rapidly grow stuff. And because these guys are applying growth ticks to plants, it also works on non-bone mealable stuff, like reeds and, watermelons and that kind of stuff. So anything that doesn't work with bone meal will still work with this guy. It's just forcing a growth tick on the block, for those of you who understand the difference between growth ticks and bone meal. Here's the Sigil of Haste. What do you think this does? Dun 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 dun. Boost 2. Nice. Let you run faster and jump higher. The Sigil of Elemental Affinity requires a combination of several sigils, and it also requires an imbued slate, which is the tier 3 slate thing, and it also requires a Magician's Blood Orb, the tier 3 Blood Orb. So we'll get to that with the tier 3 altars later, but I want you guys to know that this sigil is pretty cool. It prevents you from all forms of the elements, including drowning from water, or taking fire damage, or even fall damage. So it's a great way to protect yourself, especially if you're flying around with that air sigil, or if you happen to fall into lava. You'll notice that you quickly start to have a lot of different sigils in your inventory at any given time, so for that we have the Sigil of Holding. Another tier 3 sigil, so you're going to have to wait until you get a tier 3 altar to make it, but what you do is when you first right click it, it'll search your inventory. It'll look on your hotbar first, and then it's going to start in the top left of your inventory and find any sigils that are compatible with this thing. So let's right click and see what happens. Current owner Direwolf 20, and we shift right click and we'll see that it went ahead and consumed that air sigil and placed it in the Sigil of Holding. If we shift right click again, you'll see that it's consuming other sigils. Cool. So now we've got different sigils stored, and we can shift right click to toggle between them. You can store up to 4, so you can see which ones you have by shift right clicking and all that cool stuff. It works pretty well. Nice. And you'll also see with a mouse over what's the current item is, the air sigil, and which are in the different slots. Now there's no easy way to separate these. I think there's something you can do later on, but do keep in mind that this is a semi-permanent thing until you get much further into the mod. Now this sigil is one of my personal favorites. Simply right click to activate and it'll create a phantom bridge underneath the player at all times. So wherever you walk will create a phantom bridge. And if you hold shift while in the air, it's going to go ahead and create a phantom bridge underneath you. So let's get ourselves another air sigil here and jump up into the air and then hold shift, and you'll note that it created that phantom bridge directly underneath the player. Cool. So while in the air, it's not going to go ahead and create a phantom bridge unless you hold shift, and then it will. Nice. And of course, in case you guys didn't notice, that Phantom Bridge will vanish after a few seconds, so it'll just kind of like trail behind the player and eventually disappear. And of course, when you turn it off, it disappears as well. Nice. There's also the Sigil of Magnetism. It sucks objects in from a range. Pretty cool. The Sigil of the Blood Lamp is pretty useful. At night, you'll notice it creates a bit of a torch effect. So it's basically an invisible torch, and you can right click to place it down wherever you want. You'll notice that it places just a little particle effect there, and you can break them if you want. Nice. Now here's one that's really cool. It's called the Sigil of Suppression. It's a pretty high tier one. It requires a Void Sigil, and it requires a Master Blood Orb, which is the tier 4 Blood Orb. So it's a pretty expensive one to make. Sigil of Suppression here, when you right click, will suppress any water or lava source blocks nearby. Ta-da! You'll notice also that it's draining quite a bit of life essence from my network. And when you turn it off, the water source blocks will eventually return. Cool. That is neat. So, like I said, it works for both lava and water. One of my favorite parts is that actually the source block's coming back. I think that's the neatest part. Cool. So far we've seen the basics of blood magic, alchemical wizardry, and seen how to make your blood altar, how to fill it with life points and use the life essence within it, how to fill up your own personal soul network and use some of the life points there. Now there's a lot more to this mod that we haven't even taken a look at yet. One of the things I want to do next is upgrade my blood altar to a tier 3 blood altar. For this you're going to need about 20 more blood runes, and basically they're going to be placed around the altar. One Y level below the current ring of blood runes, a distance of 1 block away from them. So 1 layer down and 1 block away, and it's 5 on each side. So you'll see here like this. Now that's not all you need. As you can see here, we're still currently a tier 2 blood rune. What we need next is any block, it doesn't really matter which one, to pillar up with. And we're also going to need a little bit of glowstone blocks as well. So you can use whatever you want really here. Now these need to be, let's see, 1, 2, and then a glowstone. 1, 2, and then a glowstone. And these are all 4 corners. Cool. And let's see what we've got now. Hooray! Current altar, tier 3. Nice. So once you've got this set up as shown, you've got a tier 3 altar. Tier 3 altars, of course, can craft more things than a tier 2. So you can see here, there's a bunch of different stuff tier 3 altars can make, etc., etc. So tier 4, of course, required for some more advanced stuff, but tier 3 can also do some pretty advanced things. And tier 3 is what's going to be required for your inscription tools, which are required for rituals. We'll definitely be checking out rituals pretty soon. Now there's one more thing to note. This life essence here is actually a liquid, and if you'd like to get this liquid out of the altar, what you can do is place a bucket inside the altar, and it'll fill it up with 1,000 life points, or 1,000 millibuckets of life essence, and you'll see here that we've got the item bucket with life in it. Now you can use this and place it in the world if you wish, or get rid of it, however you want. So that stuff is available. You can also pipe it out with any mod that can do piping. So for example, I've got Buildcraft installed here. We can pump this out into a waterproof pipe and store it into a tank. There we go. Remember at the very beginning of the episode, I mentioned that you needed to do this? Well, we had put about 1,000 life points into the altar. The reason for that is that this altar actually has a second internal buffer, and that internal buffer is the amount of life points stored ready to be exported in this manner through a pipe. You'll note with the Divination Sigil that we're actually very slowly but surely refilling that internal buffer at about 20 life points every second or so. So it's pretty slow to refill that internal buffer. You can speed that up with one of the runes that we didn't talk about yet, which is the Rune of Dislocation. This increases the speed at which the altar can export its current stored amount into that buffer that's ready to be exported via pipe. Cool. There we go. And with that, guys, I think this is a pretty good wrapping up point for part 1 of the Blood Magic Spotlight. Now, I didn't show you all the sigils that are available, though, in fairness, I did show you most of them because they're all pretty awesome, and I just couldn't resist showing you most of the ones that are my favorites, which are pretty much most of them. But there's a lot more to check out. There's more sigils that we didn't see. I'll let you guys download the mod to check them out, but then there's a lot more to cover. In future episodes, we're going to be checking out things like the spell system that you can create spells to use. There's a system of rituals, which are like multi-block structures that do different effects. There is a system of customized spells that you can create. There's a bunch of different things. There's summoning. There's just a lot. There's alchemy. There's teleposers. There's armor creation and item creation. Just a lot to take a look at. So we're going to be taking a look at those in some part 2, 3, and probably 4 of the Blood Magic Spotlight series. Hope you guys enjoyed checking this out. Please leave some comments. Let me know what you guys thought of the mod. And come back next time for part 2, where I think we'll probably start taking a look at some of the rituals that are available. You can see a couple of them in the distance. Alright guys, this is Direwolf20 signing off. Hope you enjoyed the Spotlight, and take it easy.